We are live. Thank you, everybody. We're resolving some Wi-Fi and technical issues as folks get in. We're here today. I'm here with Mimi Rocah, my friend and former federal prosecutor from the Southern District of New York, to discuss two pieces of news in contrast to each other. One is the announced resignation of Alina Habba, which, to call it a resignation, almost ignores the fact that she has been serving unlawfully in that position since this summer. So said both a lower court and a federal court of appeals from the Third Circuit. But also, just hours before that announcement, there was another announcement by both Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche digging in and going after federal judges who do not acknowledge the legitimacy of Lindsey Halligan in an extraordinary statement. We're going to get to both of them and what this means. Why did the District of New Jersey, why did the Department of Justice give up the ghost when it came to Trump's former personal attorney turned first-time prosecutor Alina Habba, while apparently digging in with Lindsey Halligan? So welcoming to the show, Mimi Rocah. Mimi, thank you for joining.
Hi, Adam. Great to be with you.
So let's get right into it. What did you make of Alina Habba's statement announcing her resignation?
I mean, as you said, it is really kind of duplicitous for her to call this a resignation because, as we'll discuss in other cases as well, not only a district court, but a circuit court has said that she was not validly in that position. It was an illegal appointment. You can't resign from a position that you never really had. But obviously, they're painting this. She's painting this, and I'm sure it's orchestrated with other leadership at DOJ as her love. She said, "The office I love." Talking about this job wistfully. The damage that she's done to the office by trying to stay in a position she was not entitled to belies all of these flowery words. That's one point that I would make. And also, painting this as sort of, begrudging. And now she's going to go on and continue to do all this great work that she's supposedly been doing, still within the confines of DOJ. This is a person who was never a prosecutor. She's never expressed interest in being a prosecutor, in working at DOJ and running DOJ. So all of this is just words. It's just kind of nonsense for them to try and paint a picture of a reality that just does not exist, and to try and make the judges who are trying to uphold the law look bad.
And one thing that was said in her lengthy statement, to your point, she took credit for a reduction of crime in Camden. The actual record of her tenure was there was the sudden collapse of a high-profile prosecution of Newark Mayor Ross Baraka, where her team was castigated by a federal judge. And shortly after that, everything went to a snarl as judges hashed out, is she in this office legitimately? I'm going to read a portion from her statement. She said, for months, these judges, referring to the judges from the District of New Jersey, stopped conducting trials and entering sentences, leaving violent criminals on the streets. And I'm going to, chime right in here. That's actually true that the cases snarled to a halt because for months, there was uncertainty as to whether the U.S. attorney for the District of New Jersey was in there legitimately. My question is, whose fault is that?
Yeah, I mean, and I'll answer that. I mean, it's clearly the Trump administration's, quote, fault in the sense that they have repeatedly, in the case of Habba and elsewhere, ignored all of the rules and norms and procedures about how to put someone in an incredibly important job, heading up any office, let alone the District of New Jersey, which is a big office with lots of big cases and employees and attorneys. But, I feel like whenever we get into this question of sort of whose fault is it, we play a little bit into their strategy, right? Because they know that they can push the envelope on many things, but particularly with DOJ, as far as they want. And when it doesn't go their way, they can just paint the other side as looking as being too liberal or obstructionist or whatever term, as she uses here and as they're doing over in Virginia and elsewhere. And so I think we have to keep the focus on, as much as possible, first of all, as you're trying to do, the people in that office who are career prosecutors who have probably been there under, Democratic and Republican administrations and have never encountered anything like this chaos, and the judges who are trying to figure out what to do because there was never a president who tried to bypass the system in this regard. And you know, so keeping the focus on that chaos. And that's how you answer the question of sort of whose fault it is, because that started on day one that she was installed, because that's what it was. It was an
Right.
installation of a political loyalist.
And that's, to that point, to that chaos, because the chaos wasn't only in the District of New Jersey. It is now the status quo that reigns in the Eastern District of Virginia, what reigns in the District of Nevada, the Central District of California. And it is the centerpiece of her statement. She talks again and again about the effect of judges not recognizing her legitimacy because she didn't pass the rigors of the Appointments Clause and the Federal Vacancies Reform Vacancy Act. How do we, how does the public grapple with the fact that there is all of this snarled criminal prosecution across the country as a result of this decision by the Trump administration to dig in?
Well, yeah, and so I mean, I guess we haven't exactly, put the issue out there starkly yet, but in EDVA in the Eastern District of Virginia, they're doing. I mean, on the same day that they put out the statement saying, "Okay, fine, we're going to give in because of these rogue political judges," and so, God, I'm going to have to leave this job that I love, and I mean, I can't even repeat her words because they're so absurd. That same day, they put out this tweet by Blanche and Bondi saying, you know, that Lindsey Halligan isn't going anywhere. And these, again, rogue, democratic, liberal, I think they call them weapons of the politicized left.
I'm
Um,
going to interrupt you right there
okay,
because I have this statement in front of me.
please.
This is this extraordinary statement, joint statement by Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche. Certain district and magistrate judges in the Eastern District of Virginia are engaging in an unconscionable campaign of bias and hostility against U.S. Attorney Lindsey Halligan and her line AUSAs. Stop right there. Lindsey Halligan has been ruled, and they haven't appealed it. She is not a U.S. attorney. It goes on for two more paragraphs, and every paragraph, every line has a lie to that effect. She says of them, they say of her, they do not deserve to have their reputations questioned in court for ethically advocating on behalf of their client. Take it from where
Well,
you were.
and there, when the statement says they're talking about the people in the EDBA who are supposedly her prosecutors, right?
Right.
Per the statement. That to me is almost the most, I mean, the insults to the judges we'll get back to in a moment, and are outrageous. But this idea that these prosecutors who would not work on the case, who tried to tell her, we now know in a memo, don't bring this case against James Comey. Don't bring this case against Tish James. This is not a case we feel comfortable bringing. They
Right.
ignored their advice, and now they're calling them their prosecutors. And then, when she was disqualified by the court, they insisted that these prosecutors be put in the untenable position of going into court and still using her name. That was the instructions they were given. So now they're, caught between a rock and a hard place. Do I not follow the instructions of my boss and probably lose my job? Or do I follow it, but I know that they're not used to not following court orders. Nothing about this is normal. And I feel like they're hiding behind the career prosecutors now and trying to claim to be protecting them and defending them. That is insulting. And it's a lie, but it's also, I think, insulting to those prosecutors who have been trying to keep their integrity, their personal, legal, professional, ethical integrity. Um, and back to the judges for a moment. I mean, it's hard to help people understand the idea that people in the Department of Justice would insult judges before whom they appear regularly and insult them in this way. I mean, we've now gotten kind of used to it. I know. It's unheard of. I mean, you would go out of your way to be so deferential to judges because ultimately they're the decision makers. And even if they said something or did something that you didn't agree with, there are ways to voice that respectfully. And, that, again, it's becoming normalized and it should not.
Those are such great points. I'm going to take them one after the other. The point about the line prosecutors. The line prosecutors of the Eastern District of Virginia wanted nothing to do with the Comey case, nothing to do with the Tish James case. They're being ventriloquized in this misleading statement by Blanche and Bondi, when really the people who she had to turn to, scouring the country to find a USA willing to take this up with them. And to your other point, yes, I had never seen a statement from the top officials of the DOJ attacking judges, either named or unnamed. And now we see both constantly on a day when Emil Bovee and his infamous advice to tell the courts F you is back into the news cycle. Back to the heart of it, and this might be a good note to end on. What do you think is going on between the two very different approaches here, where you have, she might be making noise on the way out and giving herself a new title as a special advisor to the U.S. Attorney's office for the Attorney General. But she is leaving, Alina Habba, the District of New Jersey. And her case could have been appealed to the Supreme Court. They chose not to do that. The same sort of chaos that she's decrying in the District of New Jersey is happening in every other district where a judge has found that, speaking of things not being normal, that a loyalist installed by Trump was not properly appointed. Never happened in U.S. history. It's routine now. They have chosen in the District of New Jersey, of all places, to give up the ghost rather than take this to the Supreme Court while buttoning down the hatches in every other district, including the Eastern District of Virginia. What's going on?
So, I mean, look, I think the Eastern District of Virginia is sort of its own, animal at this point, in the sense that they've gone to greater lengths, I think, there than anywhere, right? It wasn't just that they did what they did with Habba, where they put in a new installed their political loyalists. They did it on this expedited basis because there were certain cases they needed brought. And I think the sort of stubbornness, if you will, the continued fight in EDVA, we know that on the day that the ruling came down saying that Halligan was not validly there, they sent out an email to the prosecutor saying, okay, don't use Halligan's name anymore. And then they sent an email to the prosecutor saying, oh, wait, do use Halligan's name. They're kind of scrambling, and that they're doing that because Trump cares more about these cases against James and Comey than probably anything else having to do with DOJ. That is like the ultimate revenge for him. And it kind of goes to this whole vindictive prosecution proof of vindictive prosecution, as if there weren't already enough. But the refusal to have her to basically ignore a court order. I mean, they're claiming, well, the judge didn't say she had to actually leave. Okay. But the judge said she did not validly have that position. So obviously you have to leave. But they're playing cute and they're being stubborn because I think they still want to try, and they have not been successful, as we saw with Tish James and the grand jury not indicting again. But they still want to try to keep bringing those cases. It's like an obsession at this point.
I won't take up too much more of your time. I think this is a good note to end on, though. One thing they haven't done with Lindsey Halligan is appeal her disqualification. They did that with Alina Habba. They could have gone to the Supreme Court. That's over now. That case is dead. There is no other federal appellate court decision that takes it there. Is litigating this issue over and openly just ignoring and defying it the order of the day?
I mean, I think that the strategy seems to be, as long as we keep saying that this is just corrupt, liberal, radical judges doing this, then there are unfortunately people who will buy into that or accept it or even believe it. And so if you're not going to win in the courts, which I think even they must know at this point, I mean, why they haven't tried to go to the Supreme Court, I don't know. But it's pretty clear in the district courts and probably in the circuit courts that this is the law now of the land. And so better to just do your own sort of PR, if you will, of, poor Lindsey Halligan is just getting attacked and she's trying to protect the people in her office, and Habba doesn't want to leave. And she was just, a very faithful public servant. And I guess that's their best strategy at this point.
Thank you so much, Mimi, for unpacking all of it. And for folks who've been, maybe you came in late and you missed something that happened earlier in our conversation, don't worry about it. This is going to be posted a little bit later on the All Rise News website. Just look at your top left corner. You can find a link to both my and Mimi's Substack, and you can subscribe to both of us. And if you're watching this a little bit later on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to the All Rise News channel. Thanks again, Mimi.
Thanks, Adam. Great to be with you.
Great to be with you too.
Bye.
Bye.